and welcome. You're tuning in to Unbreakable Hope with me, your host, Jessica Rose. This podcast is all about seeking the light. In each episode, we chat with someone who has either overcome the darkness or who is actively spreading light within their own community. So let's jump into today's episode. I'm excited to introduce today's special guest, Mr. J. We are talking about betrayal trauma in relationships. This is a very, 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 very important episode. So I hope you stay tuned. You will learn something from it. And I'm sure there's somebody in your life that you feel this episode will resonate with. So please share it because it's so powerful, the things that we talk about today in regards to betrayal trauma, relationships, and how we move forward in life. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to be able to hear more about you and all the amazing things that you do.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you giving me this time and space. I am Mr. J. I am a betrayal trauma practitioner, and what I do is I help people help themselves on the journey from broken trust to thriving.
And that's so important because I think probably anyone listening has at some point in some time felt that way about some relationship, right? And that normally it sticks with you for a long time, right?
Absolutely. I just want to say, first of all, a big part of broken trust is grief. And
Mm.
as we all know, grief is patient. It'll wait for you. A lot of people, when they're sad, understandably, I've been there. We want to numb, we want to distract, we want to, all these things. But grief is very patient. It'll wait. It'll wait, for as long as it needs to. And then it'll come knocking on your door and say, wait a minute, you haven't forgot about me, right? I'm grief. And then, it can come out of nowhere. But absolutely, I think a lot of people immediately when they think of betrayal, they think of infidelity within a marriage. And I will say that's probably 95% of all my clients. I do help couples work on broken trust or infidelity or betrayal within a marriage. However, there's other types of betrayal too. Betrayal trauma is basically you have to have a dependency or a reliance upon for betrayal trauma to happen. So we can have betrayal trauma from a parent because we rely upon our parents or depend on our parents. We can have broken trust from our boss or a company because we rely on them to give us a paycheck. We can have, sometimes people have broken trust or betrayal from, say, their creator, God, or maybe even their body. For instance, I worked with a lady who said, Mr. J, I did all my shakes and my meditations and my exercises, and I was still diagnosed with breast cancer. I feel like my body betrayed me or my creator betrayed me. We can have betrayal trauma from a loved one taking their own life because it's like, well, I loved my dad, but he took my best friend away from me when he took his own life.
Mm.
And then certainly the 95% that I work with, which are couples working through navigating, repairing and rebuilding after infidelity or broken trust or betrayal.
Those are really great definitions and examples. I love that you said grief is patient because that is the truth. Like it will find you. I say like grief's like a little trickster. Like it just pops out of nowhere. Hey. So for someone who's gone through many of grief cycles over the past 6 years, they all look different, but it's always there. And the different types of trauma and as far as like betrayal trauma, I think that too, like a lot with couples. I remember in one of my circles we were talking about trust and how you can trust somebody to drive you to the grocery store, but that does not mean that you're going to trust them with your finances. And I think that's another important thing for as you were describing like the different types of betrayal in the relationships and stuff like that too, is that having to repair that and how sometimes it trickles down, right? It could be about this one thing, like you're saying with couples and infidelity, but it can turn into lack of trust for everything.
Absolutely. I'm going to tell you something. One of the big things that when I'm working with couples to repair and rebuild after broken trust is the person who was betrayed, they have to learn how to trust themselves again. Because a couple reasons. Number one, if you are going to rebuild and repair after broken trust, let's just say infidelity in your marriage, you cannot feel confident in your future based on the potential future behavior of the person you're with. So for instance, you can't say, well, I'm gonna, if they do A, B, and C again, this and that, or if they ever do what they did to me, no, no, you can't base your trust on the potential behavior of them. You have to base your trust on no matter what happens in my future, I'm going to trust that I'm going to make the best decisions. I might not always make the right decisions, but I can trust myself that I'm going to make the best decisions and I'm going to stand by those. So that's first and foremost. Now, I understand it's not all that easy, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to give you a term. I don't know if you ever heard of it: betrayal blindness.
Mm.
Betrayal blindness is a key, it's a term that was coined in the 90s by Jennifer Freed. And basically, it's a part of our nervous system, our fight, flight, freeze nervous system. Actually, there's more than that. There's the fawn, the effort, all this, but whatever, I'll just say those. Okay, anyway, basically, what happens is it's a part of our nervous system, and it's actually meant to keep us safe. Its job is to keep us safe. However, it winds up biting us in the butt, and I'll tell you why. I'll give you a quick example. Little Red Riding Hood, she wanted to see her grandmother, right? She knew she had to trudge through a scary forest with a wolf that, could attack her, but she had blinders on. I want to see my grandma. I don't care. So she bakes cookies or whatever she does, and she goes to her grandma's house. And the minute she knocks on the door, something in her gut tells her something's off. But betrayal blindness kicks in because she so desperately wants to see her grandmother, she ignores it. So she knocks on the door again. She opens up the door. Grandma, grandma, she doesn't hear anything. Something in her gut now is getting louder. She excuses it away because she just wants to see her grandmother. It got to the point where she goes into the back room. She knows this isn't her grandmother because she's like, Grandma, why do you have beady eyes, a long jaw, sharp teeth? But instead of turning on and running away, she's desperate to see her grandmother. And obviously it's at her demise because she winds up getting eaten. Okay, so what happens when we're in a relationship with somebody, and let's just say we're with them 10, 15. I mean, I work with people that have been married 50, 55 years, So let's just say somebody's married 30, 35 years. They got kids together. They have grandchildren together. They have property together. They have family together. They have roots together. All of a sudden, they see their spouse, at a Starbucks with their coworker. And so what does the husband or the wife say? The husband might say, oh, you know what? That's my wife with her boss. She's so nice. He's having marital problems. She's just talking to him about his marriage. Or, we find lipstick in our glove compartment and, we say, oh, my husband's so nice. He gave his coworker a ride home. She must have just left it in there. Or, whatever the case may be, betrayal blindness comes in. Now, here's the deal. The reason betrayal blindness comes in is because it's there to protect us. Because if we were to allow ourselves to lean in, get curious, and actually allow ourselves to feel the gravity of the truth, it's too much. It's too much for us. Because what would happen is if we allowed ourselves to say, wait a minute, I just saw blonde hair in my husband's car, and, I'm a redhead. If we lean into it, then all of a sudden what happens is the reality comes in like, oh my God, I just got married. Am I going to embarrass myself in front of friends and family and now get a divorce? Or we have kids. I don't want to see my kids being raised by another woman or another man. Or, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to survive financially if I leave them? So all this fear locks us into betrayal blindness. And we say, no, no, nothing's going on. We're good. We're good. But here's the deal. What's meant to keep us safe actually bites us in the butt, because when the rubber hits the road and we finally realize, okay, this is what's going on, this is the truth, now we are trying to heal with that bomb that just went off in our life, this D-Day, Discover Day. But now we've been so separated from ourselves because we've lowered our intuition, we've put down our instinct, and we've ignored it. Now we're trying to acknowledge and heal from something, and we don't even know who we are because we're so disconnected from ourselves.
Mm.
It's a big mind F.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That I laugh pretty hard when you talk about the blonde hair in the car because as you're saying that, I always think of that. I grew up with brothers. I was in the Marine Corps, very male dominated field, and I just always made friends with guys. But I always like, you're married? Like, I need to be friends with your wife. I need to meet your wife. Your wife needs to know that we're friends. And I remember anytime I would be in the car with someone because I'm a passenger princess. I will happily have anybody drive me. And one day in particular, I was with a buddy of mine. And we went to lunch, and then he was telling me about his new girlfriend. He's all excited about. I was like, you have a girlfriend now? I was like, oh my God, I was in your car. I probably have hair in here. You need to call her and like tell her we would get her on the phone right now. Like, so I like panicked and uh as you're describing that and you said that, I kind of laughed. I was like, oh my gosh, because I think of that. I'm like, like I don't want anybody to think wrong.
Yeah, no, I
But
get
that's a
that.
good point too, is because I think oftentimes we're really good. I almost think of it like what is it, like love is blindness too? Is that as you're saying, like, oh, just having coffee with boss, just kind of being there. I think of that we're really good at the ones closest to us, like giving them excuses, even when we know it's not so much the benefit of the doubt. I think there's like this gray area where like there's the benefit of the doubt and you know and you love and you trust them, but then there's this like gray area where you turn into giving them excuses without even like inquiring. You just naturally give it, like, like if a friend says, oh, I saw blah 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 and blah blah blah, and then you're like, oh yeah, you just make something up. I think that's this like gray area danger zone that people put themselves in. But I love that you said that, is it's the fear of almost knowing the truth, and then what do I do from there?
Yeah, and because that's such a heavy weight on the other side, let me just ignore it and pretend it's not happening. I always tell people, one of the things that I do is sometimes premarital coaching, and I always tell people, first of all, some of the best ways to prevent infidelity from occurring in a marriage. That's number one. But two, I always say trust but verify. You can trust your spouse all you want, whatever, but trust but verify. And the most important thing is absolutely never ignore your intuition, because our heart can manipulate us, our mind can lie to us. The intuition, especially with women, man, I'm telling you, I tell people all the time, a woman's intuition is more spot on than a polygraph. So I'm telling you. So if anything, like really get to lean into your intuition, know your intuition, respect your intuition. I would much rather you lean into something and look foolish for it not being true, rather than you ignoring it and it causing profound damage.
Oh yeah, I not like completely derailing here, but I know there's many of times that I leaned into it and that's what saved my husband's life. Or like ultimately, like that's, had I not, like that gut feeling and just saying, something's not right, I would
Yeah.
have woken up and he would have been dead in our bed. So it's like following that, I think, is so important. And sometimes the more you lean in, the better. And I love that you said too, is like our hearts can lie to us, our brains can lie to us. We can make ourselves believe anything. Our brains are such most powerful organ we take
Hmm.
a advantage of on a regular basis. That's true too. We can make ourselves believe whatever we want to, whether it's good or it's bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I will say this, I've talked about betrayal trauma. I just want to talk really quickly about what's called D-Day, Discovery Day. And this is the day that you find out the person that you loved and trusted the most were breaking rules, whether legally, written, or unwritten. I tell people all the time, I want you to imagine there's a very thin bridge a mile above ground, and it's about a mile long. And under that bridge on the ground, on the earth, is fire and volcano. And I mean like hot, very hot. And it's smoky and it's sweltering. And you're on that bridge and you have in your arms the two things that mean the most to you. It could be your mother and your dog, it could be your two kids, whatever is the most, because I talk to a lot of people that have kids. And so you're on this bridge and you're holding the two things that are most near and dear to you in your life. And to be safe, you need to go to the other side of the bridge. So you start walking, but the smoke is so thick, it's blinding you, and your eyes are watering, so you shut your eyes. The only way to safety is for you to put your hand on the person in front of you to guide you to safety. This is a person you trust most in life. This is a person you usually trust more than you trust yourself. So you put all your trust in this person to guide you across this bridge. And all of a sudden, without notice, the bridge collapses and you're falling. And you look down and you see the eye of the volcano. And you know it's imminent death. And you're holding on to your two precious things that are looking at you. Are you going to be able to save me? And you can't save yourself. And you look up while you're falling. And the person you loved and trusted the most has a hammer in their hand. And you realize they're the ones that broke the bridge. Now your mind is hijacked. and you're afraid and you're nervous and you're scared and you're angry, and then you fall and you die in every way except physically.
Mm.
That's Discovery Day. And this is why I am on the phone with people. Well, I'm on the phone with people that maybe are 30 years out of D-Day, and I'm on the phone with people that just discovered it that day, and they're bear hugging their toilet, vomiting. One of the analogies I give people is, if you take, and I hope I'm not triggering people by saying certain things, but if you take a raw hunter's knife and you just gut somebody in the stomach to all of their contents just fall out, that's what it feels like. You just feel your life flashes before you. You're in a state of primal panic. You are confused. You don't understand, and everything within you comes gushing out. And unfortunately, the majority of the time, you have kids around you watching you during this process.
Yeah, because thinking like you're grieving so much, and grief affects your body, is like you find this out and it's devastating to the core. So I love that analogy, like you're saying, it's just like everything spills out of you. And you're right. I think there's also that part, and I've noticed this with some people I know who have lost a loved one, and they lost a spouse and they still have kids. And I was messaging someone that is kind of close to me, some similarities, and we were talking specifically about kids, not kids. And my husband and I were never able to have kids. And I said, God, like, you know, our son, or his son, he's 20 years old. I could not imagine having to do what I've done in the past couple of weeks with like a toddler running around. Like, because yeah, if you're your body's in full shock, you're throwing up in the toilet, and you're like, oh, I still have to get up and go be mom. Yeah, that's right. Like I gave myself a whole week. I was like, I don't have to get up. Luckily, I had friends and parents taking care of my dog. And honestly, in that moment, I was like, I don't care. I'll just clean up the pee and poop a week from now. That was like the mindset I was in. But to not to not be able to have that opportunity, I think that's like another level, the where you're maybe those blinders are on for longer, or you don't want to make any moves because you're so focused on how it's going to affect other people. And I think that often the other people that we're so worried about tend to be children, which again, I haven't had to experience that. I'm very blessed that I haven't. I had to walk with my stepson through this journey, and like I said, he's 20 now, but 6 years ago was my husband's second diagnosed with brain cancer. So there's definitely some challenging conversations that we had to have at an age that even then was difficult. I couldn't imagine having to say things like, "Oh, we're separating because it's not that dad died, but maybe that moment you wish he did."
Oh
But
yeah,
you
oh
discovered.
yeah, yeah. Listen, I can't tell you. Listen, the amount of sessions that I've been on. Um, I talk with a mother who was breastfeeding her twins while her 3-year-old is in the high chair. She's feeding them while she's getting her 5-year-old ready for school, while she's bawling, while her older kids are saying, "It's going to be okay, mom," and they have no idea what's going on. "Why are you crying? It's going to be okay." All she wants to do is get into the fetal position in her bed and just cry an ocean of tears and just, but you can't because which makes the healing process, if they're going to heal, a lot harder. Which I will tell you, I just want to give you a quick statistic. Roughly about 75% of all relationships that experience infidelity do wind up staying together and thriving. Actually, I just want to give you that statistic. Um, but Lord knows it's a slow boat to China healing process, and it's painful. But one of the things that I do really quick now that we're on this subject is I give everybody what's called a needs assessment when I talk to them, because everybody's needs are different. So I give everybody a needs assessment. What do you need right now to survive, to feel safe? So, are you a single mother right now of three? Okay, maybe your needs assessment consists of, I need to write down 3 restaurants where I can just tap a button on my phone and in a half an hour they're going to deliver a pizza, because I need to be in bed and cry or tear, river of tears, but my kids still need to eat. I need to have three people that I know that I can call in the middle of the night and they know what's going on and they just pick up the phone and know I need prayer. Okay. Or I need three shows that always used to make me laugh. Now, you're not going to laugh, but is it going to give you a microsecond just to get out of your moment so you can feel it? So everybody needs a needs assessment, but everybody's needs are different, you know? Sometimes people have financial needs, sometimes people have emotional needs, some people have spiritual needs. Some people, write down three people who, at a moment's notice, they'll come and take your kids because you're about to go spastic and start punching your wall or your car steering wheel, and you can't have your kids looking at you, you know? So it's a needs assessment. And you got to do this when you're in a relatively calm frame of mind, because once you get into an emotional mindset, all that thought goes out of the window, and then you're doing things and you're right in the middle of certain things. You might stop and say, am I a monster? Am I going crazy? What's going on? I don't even know who I am. I don't even like who I am.
That's yeah, you can't think when you're in a panic or moment of crisis. You're not rational. That's
No.
one thing that uh, as a blessing, like knowing that it was highly probable that my husband would pass away. I started what I call the death binder, and even my lawyer was like, I don't even have this. Like, what the heck? But I said, well, I don't truly know what kind of state I'm going to be in after he passes. And I need it to be as easy as possible for other people to help me and step in. So
Yep.
having like all the documentation, the list of all the places we have to notify, I pre-filled out for my husband and myself, right? I pre-filled out as many of the forms as possible. And I had like labeled and I had a support system that was like, you're going to handle this and you're going to handle this and stuff. So I love that you're bringing that up because yeah, when you go through a traumatic experience, whatever it looks like, especially betrayal trauma, if it's a spouse, like knowing who your support people are and what helps you when you're in a rational state of mind is definitely going to make it better when you hit that brick wall. Um, it's definitely been a huge help for me in knowing who my people are that I can rely on and turn to. I think that's something too, is a lot of people don't really think about their relationships. I call it my inner heart, so like your circle of people, but my inner heart's like those are my like ride or die people that I can count on, and then I have other circles of people that can support me here and there, but
Oh yeah.
really knowing who those people are in your inner heart that you can lean into. And I'm grateful for my support system, but is that something that you see too with all the people that you're helping? What's kind of the typical support system from someone? Do you feel like there's people who typically have them, or do you see a lot of people who don't feel like they have anyone to rely on, or the betrayal itself makes them feel like they can't rely on anyone?
So again, a great question, first of all. But again, everybody is so different because if I talk to military wives, they'll be like, I'm an East Bumscrew and I don't have any friends or family here. And I can't go to I can't go to my husband's job because he'll get thrown out of the military because he had an affair with one of his coworkers. And so, and I'm constricted and I can't he's a private one or two, so I can't afford to have a babysitter, so I can go and have a girls' night out even if I had girlfriends. So it's just very difficult with a lot of people, very difficult. And then the other thing you run into is and this is a very, man, this whole dance is very fragile because then there's some people that you thought you can count on, but once they find out, you know what, I am going to rebuild and repair, now it's used against you, those people that you had in your circle. So this is a journey that you never know what's around the corner. I've had lots of people say, Mr. J, my mother was my ride or die, and now that she knows I'm taking them back and we're working out this, she won't even visit our kids anymore, her grandkids. She let or Mr. J, my best friend, now that she found out we're going to give this another chance, she went and wrote it on Facebook, all my business. And so you got to be very careful who is your ride or die. Because then that can give you additional trauma when you're trying to work through your first trauma.
I I love that you said that because I think that's so important. There's someone I know who is going through a cancer journey, and she had shared with me that her best friends for 10, 15, whatever years, uh they that one did similar to one of my husband's best friends. She told him and never heard from him again. And then the second one didn't like how she was choosing to treat her cancer, so backed out. So I'm glad that you brought that up because that's a really good point, is that um if you have this betrayal and you share it with those inner heart people that you think are there, your ride or die, and then maybe they don't agree with your decision, and for whatever reason, I'm like shocked about the girl who posted all the stuff on Facebook. Like, whoa, that's gonna get me for a bit. But yeah, I guess like I think of that with a lot of my best friends, that if I were to come to them and say, Andrew, blah, 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 they would want what's in my best interest, and they would probably, give me pushback. But at the same time, like something you don't know until you know. And yeah, that just compiles it, right? Is like you just had this betrayal, you went to people that you thought you could trust, and they don't support you and your decisions going forward. That's hard, and I bet that comes religion probably comes in and play a lot with that too, right? For people who are spiritual or lean into religion.
Yeah. Now, I will say for the most part, religion actually is a positive resource, and people use that as a positive thing. I will say, um, infidelity in marriage is one of the, well, some people would say it's the only provision for divorce. I think it's one of the very few. There might be a few others, but definitely it's the one that stands out the most. So, biblically speaking, well, I'm just talking about like, what do you call that? Organized religion.
Yeah, yeah.
Biblically speaking, you do have an out of your marriage when it comes to terms of infidelity. But I just want to say this because I want to just kind of bring this back to something. Affairs start in childhood. And I say that because one of the big hurdles people have to get over after broken trust is the meaning that they assigned their partner's behavior. Let me give you an example. So, we all have core insecurities, right? We all have core insecurity. Probably some of us a lot more than others. I'll be the first one to raise my hand. Okay. So we all have core insecurities, okay? So what happens is betrayal hits us at our core insecurity. And one of the ways that I know this, one of the many ways, is if I'm sitting in session with a couple, and let's just say it's a male female couple, and let's just say the male stepped out, I might hear the female say, I can't believe you did this. Am I that unworthy? Am I that unlovable? She just told me that that's one of her core insecurities. Since she was a child, she felt unworthy, unlovable. So she attached her husband's behavior, she gave meaning to the affair, or whatever she says. That's a core. What people have to know is affairs start in childhood. What does that mean? That means that the parameters for an affair were set up with a person starting in childhood. For instance, people don't get into affairs because they don't love their spouse, because they don't love their partner, their significant other, or even because they want to choose somebody else. It's not because they don't love who they're with, it's because they don't love themselves. That starts in childhood. It's not that their partner has a big butt and they couldn't deal with it, or it's none of that other that. It's that they had poor communication skills. It's that they had poor coping skills. So when I work with somebody who stepped out, one of the things that I get to is the bottom line of I need to find your why. I need to find your why, and it has to start and end with me, myself, and I. Because I don't care if your partner was 600 pounds, had one tooth, and beat you upside the head every other Tuesday with a frying pan. You still had autonomy, decisions, and choices, and you made the decisions and choices to do what you did. I want to know why.
Mm.
Not to mention, if you're rebuilding and repairing, your partner and spouse has to know why, so they can also understand a couple things. Number one, this had nothing to do with me.
Mm.
And number two, I need to feel confident and secure that I know your why, so I can see you're working on your why, so I can see if you're trustworthy.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, like all of those are really good points, and I think it's people always want to know the why. Um, I laugh a little bit. That's one of the few words my husband could say is why. So he jokes, it's like he's like a toddler. Everything was why. And then sometimes I'd get caught into like explaining the why, and I'd realize, oh, you didn't actually mean why in this moment. Uh,
Yeah.
but like how important it was because there were times where he didn't understand something, so he just wanted to know why because of his lack of ability to communicate. So I love that you're bringing up like where it stems from, but the importance for yourself to know the why, for the person that or the person that did the betrayal to know the why, but then the person that was betrayed to also know the why, especially if you're trying to move and grow forward. That's a it's a healthy start of communication too, is being able to open up and be honest about those things and the
Without question, and I'm telling you something, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I can't tell you how many couples have emailed me months, years later saying, Mr. J, if you would have told me this when I first contacted you, I would have called you crazy, but I am so in love with my spouse today. I am in the most ideal, amazing marriage I never thought was possible. And that's because, listen, um, I don't have to tell you. A lot of times when you go through, let's just take a medical thing, right? Um, Sometimes somebody will go through something significant, but if they get better, whatever, what they do is they start making positive changes because they want to better. So, like for instance, let's just say somebody had, I don't know, whatever they had, a scare. Once they're done with that, fast forward a couple months, a couple years, they might be in the best emotional health of their life, the best physical health, whatever, because let's just say somebody got diagnosed with diabetes or what have you. Now they're like, okay, now I am going to be positive. I'm going to journal. I'm going to get in touch with spirituality. I'm going to jog on my days off. I'm going to help others. And they're living such a wonderful, productive life. Unfortunately, nobody ever wants this bomb to go off in your life, ever, ever, ever. But if you do the work, and what happens, I tell couples all the time, both parties were like living in a cocoon. One person was just living life thinking that, they were married and they were a team. The other person had all these secrets, but both of them were living in a cocoon. After that cocoon explodes, don't get me wrong, it's a painful journey. You are a fresh, wet butterfly in a very scary world. But after the couple do the work and they come together, man, you learn effective communication, you learn vulnerability, you learn safety and trust like you never knew existed. And then months and years later, people come back all the time and say, my Lord, I'm working on my second marriage to the same person, and I'm happier than ever.
That's so sweet. I love that. I'm so glad that you shared the statistic too about that so many couples staying together because I feel like that alone, I believe you said 75%, right?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly. Yeah. And I think that general people would probably assume that not be the case, but I think this is also a really good point of, we said a lot of it starts in our childhood and things like effective communication. Like these are the things that need to be learned growing up. So like, where's the school curriculum on this?
Yeah.
We're spending time on our emotional intelligence and not so much our I don't say like book intelligence because I think of that, like when my son would go to school and he'd come back, we're learning about blah blah. I'm like, the what?
Yeah.
You what? And I'm like, all right, I can't tell a kid why the heck you got to know this, right? Because it's not going to make a difference for him. And it's going to make him not want to do the work or him tell his teacher I said that, right? But then I think of all the things where I'm like, how can we restructure this to where we're learning these skill sets at younger ages to make it more effective for us. That's I don't know. That's one thing I think I've talked to quite a few people about recently. Even is just being able to have these conversations and learning the skill sets at younger ages to be able to actually prepare us and set us up for success in life in general, not just business, but professional life too. Or
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Listen, I was a teacher for over 15 years, and I can tell you the school day is jam-packed with so much nonsense, in my opinion. When can we, I used to teach high school, and do you know the majority of my high school students didn't know how to write a check? So can we teach, this is how you do taxes. This is how you write a check. This is how you emotionally regulate if you're doing. How about basic parenting classes? How about bringing back automotive skills? I mean, so we got all. I don't want to get into that because we're going to digress like central, but absolutely. One of the things I just want to say, uh, betrayal trauma is unlike any other trauma, and this is why it's very important that people who are trying to rebuild and repair find a specialist that specializes in betrayal trauma, not just trauma. And I'm going to tell you why in a second, but I just want to say something that you said before. One of the reasons the average person doesn't realize or understand or even think that the success rate can be so high as 75% is because think about it. When somebody goes through infidelity and they don't want to work on it, they are very vocal. I kicked his butt to the curb. His cheating A, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's very vocal about that.
Mm.
But if you find infidelity in your marriage and then you want to work on it, we don't. It's the minority. We're not going to get on social media and say, "Hey, guess what? Good news, everybody! My husband cheated on me with a 4-year affair, but we're happy now." Nobody's going to say that.
Mm.
So it's the minority, but it's the voice is minority, but absolutely the majority of people after broken trust not only stay together, but they thrive. They thrive, because I'm telling you, I tell people all the time, listen, you might have lost your happily ever after, but you can still have your happily even after. You got to
Mm.
do some work. Okay, now let me tell you the reasons why betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma. There's some different reasons, but I'm just going to give you 3. Okay, number one, we touched on this, the personalization of it all. Okay, if we lose a loved one, and you have experience in that area, unfortunately, it's horrific. It's sad. It's traumatic. Um, and we might personalize certain aspects of it, but we don't personalize all of it. So if our spouse dies, if our parent passes away, whatever, it's tragic, it's sad, it's traumatic, but we don't take personal responsibility. Again, maybe in some of the decisions along the way, but we don't take responsibility for the whatever. When we discover that the person we loved and trusted the most cheated on us or had an affair, immediately we start personalizing. What was wrong with me? Did I have bad breath? Was my chest too small? Was my butt too big? Was I not intelligent? We personalize it. That's number one. The second way that it's different from non-betrayal trauma is that it's a secret society. So again, I'll take, your example. Right now, you can say, I'm a widow. I lost my spouse. Maybe your friends can come over and, hug you, and maybe your neighbors can bring lasagna, and maybe, your job will give you some bereavement time. When you discover your spouse has been cheating on you or having an affair, you don't want to tell anybody. There's shame, there's guilt, there's embarrassment, whatever. So now you're living in a secret society where you're on this journey and you feel so alone. You already feel alone in this journey, but now you feel extra alone because it's a secret society. You don't want to shout it from the rooftops, and people don't know about it. So you're living in secrecy, which adds to the pain to the journey. And the last reason why betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma is that trauma in general affects the here and now and the future. Betrayal trauma not only affects the here and now and the future, but it also affects the past. Because once you discover your husband, your wife, your partner, whatever was having an affair, now you're thinking, wait a minute, when we went to Disney a couple of years ago and you said you had a meeting for a couple, did you have a meeting or were you going to meet her? Or now you can't drive down the streets you drove before because maybe she lives or he lives on that street. Now you can't drive by certain restaurants because he took her out to that restaurant. Or now maybe you can't go to certain hotels for the rest of your life because she brought her boss to that hotel, whatever that hotel was. So it affects the past, the present, and the future. So there's distinct reasons why betrayal trauma is different from non-betrayal trauma.
Oh yeah, all really, really, really good points. I um I always love talking about all the taboo topics, right? And I think this is, like you said, it's the secret society is that how many people are going to want to talk about it? Because there's also that you're protecting your loved one, like you said, the shame and the guilt. You don't want anybody to know because you're blaming yourself, but also you're still protecting that other person. I think that's another layer when it comes to betrayal trauma, no matter what the relationship looks like we talked earlier, like maybe it's a parent you relied on, or a work environment, like you still have, especially if it's like a family, I think of a spouse or like parent, like you still have this love for this person. So you're also protecting them at almost like a cost of yourself. Yeah, those are 3 really powerful, great examples of why that's betrayal trauma is life breaking. It's just shattering in so many different ways.
It
Wow.
is 100%. And I just want to say something to what you just said about this is where people, do you know how many times a day I get asked, am I crazy, Mr. J? Which I always say, absolutely not. But I don't know if you ever watch one of those animal shows and like a mother has her baby monkey and she's literally pounding the crap out of it. I mean, she's like Like for some reason she wants to kill her baby, and the baby keeps going close to his mother because he needs protection. And this is what happens when you find out somebody has betrayed you. It's like, oh my God, I love you and I'm so used to protecting you and I want to protect you, especially if the person's remorseful and they're crying, but I hate you and I want to kill you.
Mm.
It's a mind F.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, that is definitely a tough one. And uh you had mentioned earlier when we were kind of talking offline, you do have a lot of resources online too that people can lean into, not just only booking services with you for your help, but also journal and some other resources. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, so I have a website, which I don't know if you're gonna post links, but it's the easiest website in my opinion. It's mrjrelationshipcoach.com. And yes, I do have a betrayal trauma journal, and basically, I wrote that because I found after working with people that if they are on the healing journey, it takes roughly, and this is roughly, I can't stand timelines, but roughly about 90 days, 3 months just for somebody to have their nostrils above water to say, okay, maybe I can do this. That's about it. That's all I'm gonna give. And so what I did was I wrote a journal, and it's a prompting journal to ask you questions every day that's going to help you deal with that day specifically, just to get you to that 3 month period where you can say, okay, I think I can take an independent breath above water. That's about all I'm going to give myself right now. So I do have a betrayal trauma journal. And yes, absolutely. Even if nobody ever wants to hear my ridiculous voice or see my silly face, if they go to my website, I have all the podcasts there, where they can hear valuable information. Because I'm telling you something, one of the biggest challenges of this journey is people feeling alone. And so if somebody is listening to a podcast and like, oh my God, I thought that, or I felt that, I'm not crazy. That just gives you empowerment. Very quickly, I promise I won't be long and I won't derail. But one of the things I just want to say quickly is there's something called hysterical bonding. And I get this all the time. Hysterical bonding is you just discover your spouse has been cheating on you, and you get into this sexual desire like you're a rabbit and you want to have sex with your spouse. Now, somebody hearing this is like, are you crazy? I would want to murder them. But this is called hysterical bonding, and it's a way that we want to recapture our property, recapture what's ours, reclaim trust and love. Our it's just a hysterical bonding. It's a thing. But see, what happens is if people don't know this and they're like, I'm so disgusted in myself. I want sex with my husband or my wife, and then I feel like a filthy afterwards. I must be going crazy. Nope. It's called hysterical bonding. Very common. So this is what I mean. Listen to some information just to know you are not crazy at all. And you can find those on my website for free.
That's awesome because I think that is a huge thing. Just like you're saying, this secret society is that, or not knowing who to trust. You know, if you want to tell your inner circle and that backfires, oh my gosh, it's like more betrayal. Um, Having a place to be able to go, I think that's so important because so many people we isolate and we just internalize everything. Like you've shared, you internalize like what's wrong with me, and that not knowing who to go to or not validating our thoughts. So I think that that's huge, is being able to access those conversations and just have some validation for the pain and the thoughts. I mean, even with grief, I've joked along this journey, you know, and I had a nasty comment somebody left on one of my YouTube videos, and I after my husband passed, I was like, whatever. Now before I would have like been crying to my husband, like, why do you think this about me? You know, but now I'm like, you clearly don't know me, you don't know my journey, and you don't understand like the actual meaning behind what I was saying. You were triggered. The person even said they were triggered in the post. So it's like, okay, well, that's on you to deal with. You know, humor is a coping mechanism.
Oh
And
yeah.
so like just publicly speaking about my thoughts and feelings. And I could see how so many people, there was someone who responded to that person who was like, you have no idea. Like I thought thoughts like this and I had feelings like this and da 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 da. So just having a place for people to go to where they don't feel so alone in those thoughts, or like you said, crazy. Right? Because a lot of times it's like, you know, I'm crazy for focusing on this, you know, or that. And it's human, right?
Yeah. Especially because listen, triggers, grief, emotional flashbacks or flooding, whatever, they're like tsunami waves. Sometimes they can come in out of nowhere. You could be showering, watching it doesn't matter, driving down the street, and all of a sudden slap across the face, and you're like, "Bleh," crying or whatever, and you're like, okay, that was a weird tsunami, but okay, I'm back to normal. And it's like, yeah. So just for people to know, you know what? And listen, I'll tell you something. I've heard one time that grief is just sadness with no place to go, and one of the things there's a lot of universal experiences. One of them is grief. We've all had grief, maybe on different ends of the spectrum, whatever, but we've all had grief, and it's not a fun ride to be on at all. It's not, and
Yeah.
it's a process and it's a journey.
And it's something that obviously people who go through betrayal trauma, they're grieving so many different things too. Like you said, the past memories, the present, and then trying to move into the future. You're grieving every aspect of your life. So it's definitely, oh, it's hard.
Yeah,
Oh,
real quick, it's called ambiguous grief. It's mourning the death of someone, but they're still alive.
mm,
It's a mind effery.
I've never actually heard that term before. So thank you.
Yeah,
I feel like this is a conversation we could talk for like 2, 3 hours on.
yeah.
Um, and I definitely appreciate your time and willing to share your insights and all this. I think it's so valuable. And I know a few people in my personal life that I think could really benefit from this chat. But I want to make sure if there's something else we didn't cover, or if you have some final thoughts, links will be listed below in the description for sure as well.
hmm the only thing I want to just leave the listeners with this is, listen, if you're walking down the street and you get bit by a poisonous snake, don't pick it up and continually enter the venom into your veins. Because I'm telling you something, in the history of humankind, mankind, womankind, nobody ever died from a snake bite. Nobody ever died from a snake bite. What people die from is when the venom gets into your brains and it reaches your heart. So when people hurt us, we have to make sure we don't attach meaning to it, because when we do that, that's when we're allowing it to get into our body and reach our heart. So don't pick up the snake and enter the venom into your thing, into your veins again. Don't pack trauma onto your existing trauma.
Mm. I love that. You have such a way with analogies. I feel like I've learned so much from you in just this hour that we've been chatting. So thank you again so much for your time and coming on. And I hope our listeners got a lot out of this, and I can't wait to hear their feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. If you found this episode inspiring, please share it with someone you never know who needs more light in their life. May this serve as a reminder that there's always darkness in the world. Do not let it consume you. Always seek the light. Please take a moment to do the good old subscribe, rate, and review. Your support means so much to me, and it helps me spread more light and love. Until next time, be kind, be loving, be human, and don't ever let anyone steal your hope.